We have Chelsie Mitchell, who's the Senior Manager of Loyalty and Personalization at Advance Auto Parts. Chelsie?
Hello, I have the fortunate opportunity to do the after coffee presentation, so I was a little nervous, but it looks like half the room's missing, so works for me. Just getting all my screens situated here. So I'm Chelsie Mitchell. I am with Advance Auto Parts. I'm a part of the Loyalty and Personalization team, and this is sort of a new team. We took our loyalty team and our CRM team last year, and we decided that, like, hey, we're the same customer. Like, most of our emails are Speed Perk members. Like, why are we operating as two different teams? It'd be smart for us to come together. And so that's what we've done, and so it's still pretty new. We're learning. But it's been really exciting because it's let us kind of take some of that red tape away that you commonly face as you have more and more teams. So the topic today is vehicle personalization. And it was the first project that I ever did in my job here at Advance Auto Parts 3 years ago. So I started in March. And in April, I got handed a list from the finance team, which I think you all could relate to, a random team telling you an email idea, like it's the next thing besides sliced bread. And they're like, hey, we've got these parts for F-150 trucks. And, you know, I think we need to move them. So what if I mark down the price? You think we could sell them to F-150 owners? I was like, I don't even know which emails have F-150s. He's like, well, you'll figure it out, right? You're like, just find a smaller audience. We don't want to advertise this to everybody. We just want the truck people to know. It's like, okay, cool. So I just have to find F-150. And he goes, oh, well, actually, the parts only fit on the 11th generation of the F-150. I was like, the 11th generation? How many generations are there? Oh, there's like 15 to 20, and they're very certain years. And so I was like, well, I don't even know what truck they have, let alone which engine package, which year, which model. There's many different tiers to F-150. You got the King Rancher, you got the Harley Davidson edition. You know, there's all these different things that make up makes and models, and we didn't know any of it. So vehicle personalization enables us to connect to a deeper level with our customer, because if you think about your pet, when you shop at some of the retailers like PetSmart or Chewy.com, they're not talking to you. They're talking to your pet. Like the emails, you're just the communicator, right? And the one with the money. But those emails are for your dog. I got a birthday card in the mail for my dog last month. Like, what? So that's kind of how we started thinking about a customer's vehicle. Like, this is like everything that encompasses them. This is who they are. This is their lifestyle. This is the vehicle that gets them where they want to go. And so you see that we have Lulu, the blue pit, and she's going off-roading. It's my brother-in-law's YJ that they take out into the Yoari Forest in North Carolina, and they go off-roading. The thing's a rust bucket. It needs a new part just about every day. And then to the right, it was my fiance's truck that we unfortunately sold, but that's what we used to take back road cruising up in the mountains of North Carolina. And both of these vehicles are like their life. Like when they're not working, they're working on these cars. And so when we were sending emails that were just basically our buyer's guide, we started thinking about what if we put this at the forefront of our conversation and actually showed like, hey, we really care about your interest and your needs. We're not just trying to sell you stuff. We want to sell you actually stuff that you need and that you've shown interest in. And so that kind of led us down this journey of like, we've got this list. I'm a car person. I work with other car enthusiasts. We're like, okay, like, can we make this sort of better than just a list from finance? So we start this kind of discovery of what could this be. And what we find is we have all the vehicle data. It's just not connected very well to our customer at this point. We have over 277 different vehicle makes, and we have over 13,000 different models. Okay, so how do you choose which one you go after first? And which one's the most scalable for us to start, right? Because we're on this kind of proof of concept journey. And so the chart to the right is, there's nothing really statistical correct about it. It's just to give a concept of, we started categorizing based on vehicle type. That seemed to be like the easiest route we could take. And then we started breaking it down by interest group. So you'll see that there's like off-road, muscle car, tuner. Those are sort of, the interest groups that exist within these makes and models. And so we decided to explore each of the bubbles that are yellow to understand, was there one that ticked more than the other? So our first step were these F-150s, right? Like, we got to figure out, who are these people? And so we spent most of April, June, July, trying to figure out how do we merge these lists together. And so working with our data science team and our segmentation team, we were able to create one file and find a list of people. Great. It was 100,000 people. And given the size of our email list, that's like a penny. It was nothing. And when we talk about statistical significance, anything we tested from it wasn't going to be actually totally accurate because it was such a small population. So we went to our data science team, we're like, how do we get more people? And they said, well, there's another team buying data. Why don't we use their data? It has vehicle registration information. That will be a great way to scale our data. So we add that into the mix, and then we start trying to do the creative for the emails. Next challenge, we don't have any photography of any trucks, or any F-150s for that matter. We don't have anyone near a truck. We just have people under the hood of some vehicle. And we really felt like if we're gonna go through all of this effort, we really need better photography. We gotta have some trucks. So our photography team up in Roanoke says, there's a guy that works at the office up here and he has a red F-150. Is that gonna work? Sure, why not? So she goes out on a photo shoot with him on the Blue Ridge Parkway and gets a bunch of photos of his 1999 F-150 with all of the, ridiculous accessories on it, but it was like, it's fine, good enough. And we send out a 4-part series to F-150 owners. I decided not to go with 11th generation, that we could not do, but we just went to all F-150 owners, and instead of focusing on just the product itself, we were like, you know what, let's just do truck-specific categories, and then when they click into those categories, hopefully our wonderful website with their car in their garage on the website, it will populate these great deals to the top of the page if that's what they're in the market for. And they did really well. They were pretty promotional. We focused on towing, suspension, brakes, and exterior accessories, as well as appearance chemicals, which would be car wash, wax, that kind of stuff. And they did really well. But it was only 100,000 people. So where do we go from there? Well, what we learned from their first attempt was that truck owners over-index on everything. They are our best customers. So if we're gonna do this again, we gotta stay with trucks because it didn't seem like anything else made sense. So there's obviously more brands than Ford and F-150. There's Ram, there's Silverado, there's GMC Sierra. So how do we get all those people into this series? So we've really sparked an interest with the data science team, and they're on board. They're like, this is so cool. We want in. We think this is the next big thing. So they actually start building a model. And they start building a model trying to understand, can we actually guess what vehicle our customers have, even if they never told us? We think we can do that. So they build a model, and we use that, and we immediately scale our data to over 1 million. And so now we have a statistically significant population that we can send to. We add 4 additional trucks to the truck series, and then we thought, you know what? While we're at it, let's try to add in some business rules and some personalization to another level and using dynamic rules to make this happen. So that's where we start bringing in the tuner population, which is typically JDM Japanese cars, and they're really into performance parts. We start looking at muscle cars, and muscle cars are challenging because we're looking at a pretty big extended period of time. There might be someone that has a 1970s Mustang, and there's someone that just bought a brand new Dodge Challenger. Those are both muscle car people, but are they really those people? So we had to make some assumptions when we made these groups that, well, if you own a truck, you must like to tow. Surprise, our learning was not all people that own trucks like to tow things, nor do they live on a farm or have an RV or take a boat out to the lake. Some people literally just drive a truck. So that was one of the really big learnings we came across, is that you can't just assume because they own a certain vehicle that they're a certain type of person. And so that project kind of continued throughout the late half of 2019. And then we started exploring, okay, so we have these these automated series. So we have tuners, trucks, and all this stuff running in the background. And if you qualify, you get this, series of emails for the vehicle that you entered on the website. Cool, we have those running in the background. Now we start thinking about, we send these, what we call BAU, just general marketing messages, twice a week. How do we get vehicle personalization from those automation series into our weekly emails? Because it's kind of like two separate experiences happening. And so I go back to our photographer. I was like, do you think you could get 20 vehicles of these eras and, with some of these angles? And she's like, I don't know. Well, she calls up a bunch of used car dealerships in Roanoke and finds me the 20 cars and goes and does photo shoots with these used cars that were just for sale that she borrowed for the day. And we wanted to see, does it really matter when we show a customer almost their vehicle? Not exactly, right? And so we do personalized subject lines. So I know it's really popular. I get tons of emails. It's like, hey, why aren't you using first name in your emails? But what if our emails aren't about the person, right? They're about the vehicle. So what if we call out their vehicle in the subject line instead of the person? And so that's what we really wanted to explore. And then once they're in the email, right, we're talking about their vehicle, you would hope that the email actually has something about their vehicle. Otherwise, they would never fall for the trap ever again. And so we had all this photography, and we tried to play it in as much as possible. And we saw really high engagement rates and really high open rates. But again, there's 200 and something makes. This is not scalable. This is fun, proof of concept, but where are we going with it? And where we really kind of started to focus our attention from that point is the data. Again, we didn't really have it scaled out very large. We just had each silo. We had first party, we had the third party, and we have this model data. But what if we pulled it all together? What would that look like? And so what we did was we created the layer. And the layer was taking all of our data sources and pulling it into one place. And then it had its own, I would say I'm probably using the wrong term, algorithm, and it would decide out of all of the inputs of vehicles that it's getting, which one is most likely the customer's vehicle, and how the order works for each vehicle. Because most people are living with someone else, and they might have 1 to 2 cars, maybe 5 cars. So which one is their vehicle that you want to associate with them with? And that's what our layer did. It would score which car was most likely theirs, and then they would assign it to us. And then in the email team, we would pull that in and market them that vehicle. And so we have this going on, and we really want to understand the value of each source, because the data science team wants to take this, into other places, the website and other channels, but they need to kind of understand what the value is. And so in 2020, we ran a test on diesel trucks. And this is another instance where this time merchandising comes with a list and says, hey, we have all these diesel products. We want to show them to the diesel people. So there's 500,000 diesel people, and we're like, maybe. It's kind of a lot of work. And we have data science coming in there saying, hey, we want to understand the data better. So we decided to merge both requests together and try to knock them out. And what we learned is that our internal data, when a customer submits their own vehicle information, I think most of us know as email marketers, is the most valuable information that we can collect. Unfortunately, it is not the most scalable, because it's up to the customer to submit it. And that's where the model data really shined for us. This is where we were able to scale the data so much larger than the first party. So while it wasn't as valuable, it was scalable. And with those two together, moving into this layer, we now had this powerhouse of vehicle information. So I just wanted to share some of the images that we did. It was one template, and the modules just circulated out based on their vehicle classification. So we had the muscle, tuners, trucks, and diesel. And yeah, so it's sort of a story of exploration, a lot of failure mixed in between. We had a lot of analytic tagging issues. So our data, when it came to reading a lot of the automated series, was unfortunately not successful, which is sort of a pain point of mine throughout my career at Advance. But it was a real trial to our teams because it involved over 6 different teams to make these emails happen between the data, the creative, the photography, the copy, the content that was specific for each type of vehicle, the email developers having to update all of their code. It was a real challenge to everyone that kind of forced everyone to work together, which otherwise would have been operating in silos. So that's sort of our little journey that we're on for vehicles, and it's continuing on, and join our email and stay tuned.
Thank you, Chelsie. We have time for questions. Time for questions of Chelsie? Yep.
Good morning, James Hall from Message Gears. Just curious, because I'm a bit of a data head. That seems like a huge amount of data that you pulled together, both from external sources as well as from your internal sources. What process did you go through to aggregate that, and where did you ultimately end up storing it and accessing it?
So it's all stored in, I don't know if this is the right answer for you, but it's stored internally. So it was pushing through into Marketing Cloud from our internal databases. So the audiences weren't being created the segments weren't being created in Marketing Cloud. They're being created in our like data lake and flowing through into Marketing Cloud.
So, sorry, I'm usually loud enough. So, you spoke about not necessarily knowing which vehicles your customers had, but you were able to go and look at the registration data and kind of marry that together. I mean, how did you make that connection between your customers and the registration data?
Yeah, so the team that bought the data was our loyalty team, and so we had already matched based on our loyalty information that we had, and then we piggybacked on them, and then took that information, and we had their email associated with the loyalty account, and were able to move that through. Yep.
When you were making best guesses, when the modeling was making best guesses as to what model was matching with the user, what signals were you using from the user to know that you would hit it?
So, of course, an open before iOS stuff was always just a good, like, okay, we caught their attention. But really, it was really the clicks. It's hard to, we're trying to basically upsell them products that they're not buying, because as Advanced Auto Parts, I've been telling some people here, I can't force you to buy brakes. Like, we might have power stop performance brakes, but unless you need brakes, you're not going to buy them. So these emails, that was sort of the challenge with them, because our business is all about failing parts. Your wipers are streaking and you cannot drive because you cannot see. But these emails offer up more of a lifestyle about, hey, you're going off-roading in your Jeep. Have you been thinking about lights or mud guards and things like that? And we didn't have any information that they were ever interested in that. And so really, for me, the clicks is what mattered. The clicks over delivered, because that at least showed that we were giving them something that was interesting enough that they felt like they could go to the website. What we would need to do in the future is have it run longer, and that we could gather more data at this point. Also, we've become way more sophisticated over the last 3 years.
Were you creating paths by which you could take advantage of the fact that you'd sort of sparked interest in them, you've connected with them on their vehicle level to get them to give you more data? Were they becoming sort of a lot more eager to engage with you once they felt that you knew who they were?
That was the hope. I did not have that kind of visibility into what the next step was, and that was the critique of it all. Was, okay, you have this amazing series, you're getting them to the site, but the thing about personalization that you're all probably really familiar with is that if the website's not personalized, it's a fragmented experience. So our emails could be the most beautiful, personalized experience, but if the website isn't able to deliver that continuing experience, it's fragmented. And so that's kind of where we didn't push it forward, because we knew we would need more buy-in from other parts of the business to really change. And the size of Advanced Auto Parts makes that quite a challenge, as you know, a little coordinator with a big idea at the time. So, yeah.
Chelsie, that was cool. Thank
Steve,
you so much.
Yeah,
Steve, we
thank
have
you.
one more
Sorry.
question back here, actually.
Hey, this is Jameson from QuickBooks. So I'm a big fan of self-selecting your own journey or letting customers do that. Is there maybe a way that you could implement that into your emails to maybe let them go through a round robin of "this is not me"?
Yeah, and we had we had a banner at the bottom that was like, is this something that you're not interested in? So that they could kind of help us create like sort of a janky preference center, so that if you had a Dodge Challenger but you could care less about any of the culture, we made sure not to send that to you again. But besides that, we didn't really have any other type of preference kind of set up. The future idea would be to have more content baked into our emails that we can start kind of just segmenting some audiences in email, and just to test to see, like, if you have an off-road article, whoever clicks on it, start kind of collecting those people and then moving them into our off-road segment. So lots of potential, and it's really exciting.
Chelsie, thank you so much.